Hey everybody, we're back again with a main personality awakening preview. We're going to be going over Cell today. Cell I have mixed feelings about. If anybody remembers from a previous discussion we've had before, I said that Cell was the first evidence that the game was going to go ahead and turn a hard corner, that newer personalities were going to be markedly better than older personalities, which of course is called power creep. Just the idea that the newer the set, the better it is. If you're hearing this and you say played Yu-Gi-Oh! Or other similar card games like Magic the Gathering, you can't really compare new to the old. That is to say that they're generally monumentally more effective, if not just incrementally more effective. So I get upset at that because I would feel that Dragon Ball Z, Panini Z I should say, doesn't really need to have power creep in it. I think that perhaps characters should be made to be more effective in a creative fashion, as opposed to simply making them buffed up versions of previous characters. You know, bigger power buffs, more outrageous powers, and less cost to them. But as long as it's across the board, that is to say that they say all characters going forward are just kind of equally broken or equally powerful. I guess that's acceptable, but not ideal. So we came here to talk about Cell, so we'll get on with that one. So we start off with level 1 Cell Prepared. He has, of course, an instant power, which I forget what the word is actually for that. I might be using the Magic the Gathering word, which seems kind of silly because I wasn't even a big fan of Magic. Well, his power says, use when entering combat. Search your life deck for an ally with Cell Jr. in the title and play it. So kind of like Captain Ginyu, but better, bringing in that whole pattern of better but similar to old ones, you know, the buffed versions. He simply pulls in an ally. Go into combat, he's going to poop out an ally. So that means that if Cell's setting up a plan, like he needs one particular Cell Jr. and all that stuff, you can search for any one of them. Start setting up a combo, get you lined up for something nasty. Very effective. I don't know if you'd want to camp level 1 with Cell, but 1,000,000 at his highest stage is not a bad power level to be camping at. He has a regular power, of course. Destroy a top card of your opponent's life deck. Shuffle an ally and play into his owner's life deck to raise or lower a player's anger 2 levels. So it's kind of neat. He provides with him at all times the ability to do this. So provided you can simply hold on to that ally, you can simply cash in the ally, shuffle them back in, destroy the top card of their life deck, and then of course get yourself 2 anger. Hardly a bad effect. To me, minus the whole thing of shuffling in an ally, it almost sounds like a Wheelo power. The whole concept of raising your anger, destroying the top, that kind of thing. So that feels strange in a way, that he's kind of a Wheelo-ish power. I would not really have pegged Cell for this, but I guess they have to have the variant builds like the Broku decks and all that. If I had to go ahead and say kind of interesting combo that this might work well with, and kind of obviously obviously a match to put with this particular stack of Cell is Blue Tag Mastery, because you can simply begin many games with 2 allies. Like say your opponent begins their turn, they go first, you pull out your first ally. Also, it's poor form, I should mention this here, poor form to wait to see what your opponent's going to do, then use the power. You know, please activate it before your opponent starts doing anything, where beginning a turn is the timing for that, because I get real tired of people who conveniently like, I'll wait a few seconds, see what you're going to do, then pull out the appropriate ally. So also, if you're playing against somebody with blue tag and they want to use that power, please let them use it first. The thing is, of course, like we said, if someone were to go first on it, you pull out your ally, then you draw your 3, and then you go in, well, I'd say, no, I'm sorry, you have to use your ally search. So you'd pull out a Cell Jr., and then you might as well pull out another Cell Jr., or you can pull out somebody like Nappa, Frieza, you know, whomever you anticipate this particular character, you know, going after you with. So, very effective potentially. Moving on to level 2, Cell Combative. No comment on the glare on this particular level. He has, of course, another instant. He says, use when entering combat. Search your life deck, discard pile, or banish zone for an ally with Cell Jr. in the title and play it. Let's say for sake of argument, you really don't want to move up past level 2. Why do you want to? 1.5 mil on a level 2? Who does he think he is, Broly? I don't even remember if that's what it is, but it's similar enough. So he can get to F on level 2, and that's pretty effective. He, of course, can now recover allies from anywhere, even though the blue tag's already doing that. If you decide not to go with blue tag, he's got a blue tag built into him. Don't even bother. So it's terribly effective if you plan to stay at level 2, meaning that your opponent really can't do anything. I guess if you want to say thematically, it's that Cell just keeps pooping them out. There's really no way to be rid of all the Cells as long as Cell Jr., if Cell's in play. So he has a power. You may set your MP to 0 power stage. Destroy the top 3 cards of your opponent's life deck. Shuffle an ally in play into its owner's life deck. Now, a lot of what I just said is going to sound like, well, what is that for? So, if one remembers, with the Captain Ginyu decks, you would actually invite a little bit of stage damage in order to get down low enough in order to have your allies jump in and start pounding on your opponent, provided you weren't like level 3 or didn't get like one of the other energy attacks to hit. This one simply says, Cell powers down and says, Cell Juniors, attack. So it's pretty good stuff. The idea is again goes for the mill effect. He is able to get all of his allies to be able to jump in. Your opponent destroys the top 3 of their deck. Shuffle an ally. Let's say, for sake of argument, you're building that one blue build that has a lot of setups and drills to talk about when allies enter and leave play. Like the ones that let you draw cards. I think it's Traveling Drill or something like that. That lets you draw a card or destroy mill more of their top of their deck when allies come in and leave play during combat. This can facilitate that in a big way. You can see a lot of mill going on it if you wanted to go with this approach. Moving on to Cell level 3, Smooth. I'm going to put it out there that the artwork is maybe not the best. I can think of, like, if you gave me a minute, I could probably come up with 10 other poses or moments from the show that really should have been this. I'm not sure what's going on from a legal perspective. I'm not sure if Panini perhaps isn't using them because, they couldn't find any shots they could legally use. I don't know. There's always a question about what is still owned by Score, what is actually being allowed for use with Panini. I don't know. There's probably some elaborate legal story about that. Okay, so Cell level 3, Smooth. He has another instant power used when entering combat. Search your life deck, discard pile, or banish zone for a Saiyan ally and play it. Now, most people might say, hey, wait a minute. I thought this was supposed to target Cell Juniors. Well, it does. Remember how Cell has what they call unique heritage in the story? He has Namekian heritage, Saiyan heritage, and he can use any of the colored styles. So what we're saying is, yes, he can still fish out Cell Juniors, but now he can target Nappa, Villain Vegeta ally, I'm missing somebody, Turles, any of these sorts of, Paragus, Broly. They're just saying that it simply broadens it. If you're, for whatever reason, you're playing the blue ally deck, you can simply have a broader number of allies than you thought you might otherwise, especially if you're pretty good at leveling. Power level at 2 milli, so he's definitely not going to lack for striking power. Speaking of striking power, he does have a physical attack as his power on this level. It says physical attack, if you control 2 or more allies, destroy the top 5 cards of your opponent's life deck. Take the trip with me. If you reach level 3, you've yanked your ally from wherever you needed to yank him, you pull him into play, it's maybe, what's his name, Turles, or Vegeta, and they start to buff up your attacks. You got a zillion Cell Juniors in play, you're getting the Saiyans in play buff, and then you're going to hit your opponent, but before you do, knock the top 5 cards of their opponent's life deck off. Now we're talking. Now we're talking about everybody needs to look out, drill level. And then if it connects, bam, AT plus 6. With all the buff that's coming off of Vegeta, Turles, all these guys, really good stuff could be happening. Really good stuff. So if you thought that you were tired of getting wrecked by level 3 Cell from his previous version, I think you might hate this just a little bit more. Moving on to Cell level 4 Unstoppable. So he has, of course, he has a when entering combat ability. This one says, use when entering combat. Search your life deck for a style card and place it into your hand. So we're officially done with the whole ally thing. We're not doing that anymore. And he can now search out a styled card, which is pretty darn good. If you need a certain kind of tech in to deal with a problem on the field right now, like say for sake of argument, now this is, might sound wild. Let me just throw a scenario out there. Say your opponent is, that they've either drawn a certain card or because they use like, what do they call it? It's kind of an odd one, I guess. Like an aggressive use of visiting the past where that they pulled out a certain card or used another effect and when entering effect, like say one of the sword cards, for Trunks, and what they have. Fine. Before you draw your own 3, go ahead and pull out Black Swirl. Name that card that they just pulled out, and they just wasted that shot of it. So you can see, if you're going to go with black and that kind of thing, it can be terribly effective. I've had it used against me, blew my mind. So he has a power, it says you may, of course, use this only once per game. Remember, of course, this is remnants from the preposterously broken level 4 and level 3 Cell from before. So this one says you may lower your main personality one level to lower your opponents one level. So remember, of course, it goes in that order. You must lower yourself one in order to lower them one. This, of course, can be used only once per game. And this is, of course, an MRP or most recent printing. So it's just there to sort of correct it. I've heard people gripe and saying they don't like this level 4. All I'll tell you is if you built a deck to run to this level as fast as you can, having a built-in de-leveler is not a bad thing, and it just gets you back in KOing range with level 3, so I wouldn't complain. I would say I wished I had a power on a personality that I played often that was this effective. Cell did get a new named card over previous sets. It's an event called Cell's Provocation. So if this card is rejuvenated, is parenthetical, of course. If this card is rejuvenated during combat, destroy the top X cards of your opponent's life deck. X is the number of allies you control with Sal Jr. in the title. So let me throw a scenario out there, just for giggles. Imagine if your opponent's got a wild setup out there. You know, lots of different allies out, maybe a drill or two that boosts up damage. I'm sorry, when you destroy the top of their life deck, all that fun stuff. And then does a pass, throws down Cell's Provocation, rejuvenates it. Oh, I'm sorry, this is during combat. So if they were to put it down and use, say, any number of Namekian style cards to be able to rejuvenate it, you might see a horrendous mill. Even KO shots, especially late game with enough allies in play. It does have a regular power. It says return ally play to its owner's hand. If that ally had Sal Jr. in the title, destroy the top 3 cards of your opponent's life deck. So, pretty awesome effect. Remember we talked about the possibility of using this in the blue style with the allies coming and going in combat as a primary means to achieve mill. It's set up for it. If you really want to run that way, if you want to go that way, sort of a sideways way to come at your opponent and get them like that, it'll work. If I may mention one other sort of aside, you might wonder, what is the point? It's not like putting a Dragon Ball in your hand. Why put an ally back in your hand? I'll tell you why. Remember, Cell Juniors don't gain power stages. These little guys, unfortunately, don't gain power stages, so the only time they get stages is when they're put into play. So being able to bounce them to your hand and put them back into play is a very good thing. The overall rating is Cell will still remain a very effective personality and in some of the most interesting builds in the game, some of those highly unusual, like I don't have any problem with power and muscle behind my hits. But if I was to put my finger on it, it might be a little while before somebody cracks the code of the whole milling thing. So we shall see if he's going to make a big splash on the game or anything near what he initially did. Thanks for taking time out of your day to give us a listen. We got a little bit further to go. Stay tuned.